It was a routine flight, until a shocking act of injustice unfolded in plain sight. An elderly man, frail but full of dignity, politely asked for his meal. Instead of receiving the simple kindness he deserved, he was met with hostility from a flight attendant whose actions stunned everyone around. Her refusal wasn't just rude, it carried an undertone that left passengers whispering in disbelief. As the man sat in silence, the atmosphere on the plane grew tense, with some passengers unsure whether to speak up. But what happened next took the situation to a whole new level. Word of the incident reached someone who refused to let it slide, the airline's CEO. His response would send shockwaves through the company and leave everyone questioning how such a moment could ever occur. What pushed him to step in, and what became of the flight attendant? Stay tuned as we unravel this extraordinary story. The elderly man had been traveling alone, his quiet demeanor suggesting he was used to going unnoticed. Passengers near him exchanged glances, uneasy about what they had just witnessed. Some whispered, wondering if they should intervene, while others avoided eye contact, not wanting to get involved. The flight attendant, however, seemed completely unfazed. Her tone was sharp, dismissive, and she moved on as if nothing had happened. What no one knew at that moment was that someone had been quietly recording the interaction. A passenger seated nearby couldn't believe what they were seeing and felt compelled to document it. The video quickly began circulating among the crew and even made its way to the airline's customer service team. Meanwhile, the elderly man remained silent, his hunger and hurt hidden behind tired eyes. Little did anyone know, this single moment was about to spark a response no one saw coming. As the flight continued, the mood among the passengers grew more uneasy. Those who had seen the interaction couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Some passengers quietly whispered their thoughts, questioning why the flight attendant had treated the elderly man so poorly. Was it personal? Or something even worse? One woman, seated a few rows back, couldn't stay silent. She called over another flight attendant and explained what had happened, hoping to find some accountability. But the response she received was vague and dismissive, leaving her frustrated and the situation unresolved. Meanwhile, the video taken by the nearby passenger had already started spreading beyond the confines of the plane. It quickly caught the attention of a customer service representative at the airline's headquarters who was appalled by what they saw. Realizing the gravity of the situation, they decided to escalate it directly to the CEO. But what would happen when the video landed in his hands? The answer would shock everyone. As the plane landed, the tension among the passengers was palpable. Some had spoken up during the flight, while others had chosen to stay quiet, but everyone seemed to feel the weight of what had happened. The elderly man shuffled off the plane slowly, his expression unreadable, leaving many to wonder what he must have been feeling. At the airline's headquarters, the video had already reached the CEO's desk. Known for his hands-on leadership style, he watched the footage in stunned silence. The scene was undeniable. The blatant dismissal, the tone of disrespect, the visible discomfort of the man as he was denied a basic courtesy. The CEO's jaw tightened. This wasn't just about bad customer service. It was about the values the company stood for. Determined to get to the bottom of it, he made a bold decision. He would personally confront the issue, no matter how high the stakes. Behind the scenes, his team scrambled to identify everyone involved, preparing for a response that would leave no question about where the company stood. But what would he uncover when he confronted the flight attendant? And how would the elderly man's story come to light? The moment of reckoning was drawing closer. As the CEO dug deeper into the incident, an unexpected detail surfaced. This wasn't the first time complaints had been made about the flight attendant. A quiet trail of reports from passengers and co-workers painted a troubling picture, one that had somehow been overlooked or dismissed in the past. This revelation added a new layer of urgency to the situation. The CEO knew this wasn't just about one incident, it was about a pattern that needed to be addressed immediately. At the same time, the passenger who had recorded the video decided to share it online, hoping to bring attention to the elderly man's plight. Within hours, the video began to gain traction, sparking a heated conversation about respect, age, and the responsibilities of airline staff. Public pressure on the airline mounted rapidly, with people demanding answers and accountability. But then came an unexpected twist. A passenger who had been sitting across from the elderly man stepped forward with a surprising revelation. They had overheard something during the exchange that hadn't been caught on video, a quiet comment from the flight attendant that hinted at a deeply personal bias. This information, paired with the growing outrage online, added fuel to the fire. The stakes were higher than ever, and now everyone was watching to see what the CEO would do next. The CEO wasted no time. He called a meeting with the flight attendant, the crew involved, and senior leadership to address the incident head-on. Confronted with the video and the growing public backlash, the flight attendant initially tried to downplay her actions, claiming it was a misunderstanding. But when the CEO presented the additional complaints and the overheard comment, her demeanor shifted. It became clear that this wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment, but a troubling pattern that couldn't be ignored. At the same time, the elderly man's identity was uncovered, and the CEO personally reached out to him. What he didn't expect, however, was the man's response. Instead of anger, the man spoke with quiet grace, saying he didn't want revenge, but hoped the airline would learn from this experience and treat all passengers with dignity moving forward. His humility struck a chord with the CEO and the public alike. In a final twist, the CEO announced a bold new initiative, a company-wide overhaul of training and accountability inspired by the man's words. The flight attendant was terminated, but the story didn't end there. The elderly man was invited to speak at the airline's first training session, where he shared his experience and called for compassion. The story, which began with cruelty, became a symbol of change, leaving an indelible mark on the company and everyone who heard it. The airline's response to the incident became a turning point not just for the company, but for the broader conversation about respect and accountability. Passengers praised the CEO for taking swift action, and the elderly man's grace and humility inspired many. The airline's commitment to better training and higher standards resonated with the public, showing that meaningful change could arise from a moment of failure. As for the elderly man, he expressed gratitude for the support he received, but remained focused on the larger lesson. He hoped the story would remind people to stand up against injustice and treat one another with kindness, no matter the situation. The video that had sparked outrage became a symbol of transformation. What began as a painful moment turned into a powerful message about the impact of standing up for what's right. It was a reminder that even small acts of humanity can change everything.